Aloha. Welcome to the MOONthly update with Queen Mabsy. Now, I am an Akashic astrologer, a multi-medium healing artist, and creative consultant based in Ava Beach, Hawaii. And I'm here to give you a little update on what this month has in store for you. Now, this is my first YouTube video about astrology and for the public. So, if you have any constructive criticism, totally open. If you have any questions, please comment below. Please comment with your sun, moon, rising in the comments below. Love to meet you. Anyway, so I would like to give you an update on what is happening this month, okay? So here we go. If you have any questions about how to book a reading with me, you can go to www.queenmabsy.com. That'll be in the show notes below. Okay, so now that that's out of the way. All right, so let's talk about the astrology for the month of September. Now, I say month because, well, most of our months are ruled by the moon. So we have a month, we have 12 months in the year. So let's get into it. So September is here. We are at currently at September 2nd at 4:21 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. We are stepping into a powerful cycle of eclipses, retrogrades, and a rare interstellar visitor, Comet 3I Atlas. Let's explore how this cosmic being and these eclipses are weaving into our collective story. Now, 3I Atlas is presently in the constellation of Libra. As of August 30th, Comet 3I Atlas is moving through the sun sign of Libra. Just a few months ago, it was in Sagittarius, and it was actually traversed to the 13th zodiac sign, Ophiuchus, as well, which is not a sign that I generally work with directly unless somebody has their sun or moon or rising in that general area. Then I'll work it and weave it into your chart. That's the constellation where it's a guy holding a big snake. And he's also represented by the caduceus, the medical weaving, the kundalini energy. So anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, I found it interesting that this comet, 3I Atlas, happened to be traversing through that area in the territory of timing, where my mentor, Isaac Box from New Paradigm Healing Academy, was just inquiring about the 13th sign. I'm like, well, look at that. You were so intuitive. So anyway, I've gone to a healing arts school side topic called New Paradigm Healing Academy. I will post links to the academy below. We have a Facebook group and a beautiful community of healers and a very safe container if you ever need any more support. So presently, it's about 15 degrees Libra. Now, this is interesting to me because that's a 15-degree harmonic. Now, Rick Levine also talks about these harmonic numbers, and another astrologer that I absolutely adore, Christopher Witecki, does a lot of work with the degrees and the numbers. Now, what's interesting is that the Pisces lunar eclipse that is occurring on the 7th of September happens to sit at 15 degrees Virgo. So there's a little synchronicity for you. Now, what does that mean? Well, 5 is our thoughts and 1 is our heart. That nets to what? 6, which is what we open up to. Now that's a step astrology thing. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to seriousjoy.com. I'll put that in the links below too. really great stuff. Anyway, now I want to go into more about what I think, not what I think, but more what I intuitively feel about this body, this interstellar visitor. Now, this comet is kind of baffling scientists. It's got properties that, well, we haven't really seen before. Like it's a kind of a plasma where there's water and like dust. And you there's also a great astrologer who's also a geologist called Stefan Burns that I also follow. He's been talking a lot about this and tracking it. I can also link to below. None of these people sponsor me except for New Paradigm Healing Academy. They're just cool people that I absolutely adore. So yes, so Stefan Burns has been talking a lot about this three-eye atlas, and I have been following. So this interstellar comet, 15 degrees Libra, is faint and visible only through telescopes. And so if you're Libra, this is going through your sign. Last month it was gracing the Sagittariuses and the Ophiuchus astrology signs. What makes this special is that it's not from this solar system. It's not a Kuiper belt object where it kind of like loops back around and like orbits us like the Kuiper belt objects that are way out there past Pluto, um, as in collected with Pluto. This body is not from here. It's not from our territory. It's a larger orbit from somewhere else in the galaxy. It's an interstellar comet, a traveler on a hyperbolic trajectory, simply passing through our solar system, perhaps carrying messages from beyond. Messages meaning, well, data. Like the scientists can observe this and they can look at the properties of like how it behaves with our planets and with the sun. They're already seeing it create like the comet trail because it's like going through and like the solar system and the sun's rays are kind of making the ice melt and the water vapor happen. And where that happens, there's dust. And dust is also plasma. Plasma is sentient. We're made of plasma. Like we have plasma in our bodies. It's one of the missing pieces to the puzzle of when you sample the interstitium of our bodies has plasma. So like in the skin fascia, there is plasma. When you die, the plasma leaves your body. And scientists also know of the Kordylewski clouds that were discovered in the 1950s that are plasma in between the Earth and the Moon. So maybe, maybe after the plasma leaves our bodies, it goes somewhere else. We don't know. Anyway, very fascinating stuff. So plasma beings. I call this a plasma being. Not that it might be. Now some people are like, oh my gosh, it's the aliens. They're here. They're gonna, once it reaches the sun in October, it's gonna be closest to the sun, October 29th, 2025. A lot of people are freaking out. They're like, yo, when it goes to the sun, it's gonna hide and we're not gonna be able to see it, and all the spaceships are gonna come out, and then they're gonna take over the Earth. Oh, the way the way I see it. Let's not get paranoid, but let's just get curious and interested as to what this body has to tell us and listen to what the scientists have to say from their observations. So chill, okay? Like, if it's the end of the world, well, just enjoy. Now, I feel that this being has data that's very that is going to be interacting with the stuff in our soul system, in our solar system. And the particles are going to be coming off of it and flying around all over the place. So let's just get curious and observe and don't panic, because it might actually just give us some more information about what consciousness actually is. That is all. They'll be closest to Earth, this body, December 19th, 2025, but that'll be still a safe 167 million miles away. And then in March of 2026, it passes near Jupiter. But there's no conjunction. It'll be in Leo, Jupiter, and Cancer. Astronomically close, but cosmically speaking, worlds apart. So that invisibility window that everybody's concerned about in October 2025. Let me share my screen and show you what's going on. Okay, so here we go. This is 3i Atlas. Right here. And as you can see, it's right about here. It's going to be going through and checking out Mars. It's already going to check out Jupiter. And that's basically just going right through our solar system. Pretty cool, right? Nothing to worry about. Or maybe. I don't know. I personally, my spidey sense is not ringing any alarm bells. I'm just really excited and curious about it. From late September through November, Atlas disappears into the sun's glare. You won't be able to see it again through telescopes until December. And as you know, what happens when something cosmic slips behind the sun, or a Cassini, as we call it in astrology, the speculations start flying. Online chatter already claims the craziness, but just see this differently. It's a living messenger woven of light and charge. Plasma is the fourth state of matter, full of flow and consciousness potential that we're only beginning to understand. Now, comets have been more than rocks and ice. Across the world's traditions, they have been seen as messengers of change. From Maori culture in Aotearoa, Polynesia, also known as New Zealand, they signal ancestors and cycles of transformation. In the Navajo tradition, they were like brooms, just sweeping away what was old. In Mesoamerica, they were tied to Quetzalcoatl, feathered serpent of wisdom and upheaval. So that's interesting that it was discovered when it was in the Ophiuchus constellation, which is the serpent. Very interesting. The Hopi Indians, American indigenous people, saw comets as forces of renewal, as in reshaping worlds. And in Chinese lore, they were broom stars. So here's another broom reference. Sweeping the heavens as signs of turning points. So when Atlas disappears behind the sun in October, it is not just astronomy, it's an initiation. As a messenger going into the fire, transforming and re-emerging to deliver its message to us in December. So that's my little 2 cents on 3i Atlas. Now, next I wanted to focus on Saturn. So Saturn retrograde has been just moved into Pisces backwards from Aries yesterday. Yesterday, as in September 1st. It is now September 2nd. Now, there's a 30-year cycle that is kind of coming to a close. The last time Saturn went through Pisces and did this whole retrograde thing was in the late 1990s. So progress might feel stalled. Saturn in particular does this retrograde traverse back to 25 degrees Pisces. So this is review season. Think of it like preparing for your final exams. Where we end is where it begins. Saturn is the boundary planet of the visible planets that we can see with our naked eye. So Saturn represents containment and boundaries. What have you been healing, building, and mastering for the last 30 years? What lessons are you finally ready to graduate from? Saturn has been in Pisces for about 3 years. So we're also closing out a 3-year restructuring cycle when it comes to your spirituality beliefs and what you envision, Pisces. By November 27th, 2025, Saturn will re-enter Aries, and by February 14th, 2026, we'll feel the call to respond with fresh courage. But now in Pisces, it's time to declutter, close loops, and be honest about what you can really carry forward. Now, I want to talk a little bit about AI, retrogrades, and the collective systems. It's not just personal. With Saturn, Neptune, and also the planet Uranus, all retrograde, collective systems reflect this same review mode. Saturn represents structure, Neptune represents illusions, and Uranus is expect the unexpected. Also rules technology. So with all of these planets dipping backward, I feel that the AI-driven stock market could feel some shifts, unexpected shifts. Now, these could be positive or they could be negative. With Uranus, it's kind of like the improbability drive in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It might become a whale, it might become a butterfly. We don't know. We don't know. But something you can count on, the only thing that you can count on is something is going to change, and probably drastically so. Neptune retrograde can strip away hype, it can dissolve illusions, or it can create more delusions. Testing whether AI's promises match reality. Saturn retrograde demands accountability. Companies and systems must prove they can sustain growth. Uranus retrograde shocks, sudden pivots, breakdowns that force breakthroughs. So if you're invested and the AI bubble looks like it's shaky this fall, or you're like, or it gets like really euphoric, and you get a little scared, it's not a collapse, or it's not like a inflation. It's a cosmic review time. The universe is asking what's real, what's sustainable, what's just smoke and mirrors, what innovation can actually carry us forward into the next Saturn cycle. Because, when you think about the last Saturn cycle started with the dot-com boom. Now we're starting a new Saturn cycle. So now we're moving on. So if the last new moon we had 2 weeks ago in Virgo new moon, 1 week ago, the Virgo new moon we just had grounded us. It was at the 0 degrees Virgo, at the beginning of Virgo season. Now, I'm calling that the beginning of eclipse season, not the 7th. It's not the beginning of eclipse season. Why? Because, well, we basically have this feeling sandwich going on. Why is that? The Virgo new moon was like the bottom slice of the bread. like a container for this. I'm laying the foundation for what is going to happen on September 7th. September 7th, we have a lunar eclipse in Pisces at 15 degrees that I was talking about earlier. So this is the filling. It's emotions, watery, deep. September 7th. So mark that on your calendar, September 7th, a lunar eclipse in Pisces. And then on September 21st, we will have a Virgo solar eclipse at 29 degrees. Virgo, very end. So we are the beginning, we are the middle, and we got an end. We got a bread, we got a filling, and we got a sandwich. We got a feeling sandwich. So Pisces rules a lot of the feelings. So, and Virgo rules reality, our body. So how is our body containing our feelings? So this Virgo season, really work on your self-care and make sure that your vessel is clean and prepared and well rested, and your environment is contained for the reality shift that this eclipse season is bringing us. So let's go by week highlights. Gonna go into sharing my screen here. Doo-doo. Okay, good. I think I got this. I'm still figuring this out. Wonderful. Okay, great. I'm using astroseek.com. It's a free website, so lovely time. So as you can see, this is September 1st, yesterday. So we can see here, this is the planet Saturn right down here. So you can see it is at 29 degrees Pisces. We got Neptune sitting there. The retrograde, the R means it's going retrograde. Okay, so we have this minor grand trine aspect between Saturn, Uranus in Gemini, and Pluto in Aquarius, heading off the start of the month. Yesterday, there was also a grand water trine between Mercury, the moon, and the asteroid Chiron. Moon represents our feelings. Pluto represents transformation. Chiron represents the wound that never heals. So the wound that never heals is in the action sign of Aries. The moon yesterday in Sagittarius and Mercury in Leo. So this was a grand fire trine, fire elements actually. So Leo's fire, Sagittarius is fire, and Aries is fire. So if yesterday seemed pretty warm and fun, that would be why. Now we also had simultaneously, there was a grand water trine happening between Jupiter and Cancer, Lilith, which is not an actual body. It is where the moon isn't. The farthest point of the moon's orbit from the Earth represents fear or false evidence appearing real. And that went to the par de fortune and the North Node in Pisces. So there was strong water element flow. And if you had a really good Labor Day, that would be why. There's nice harmonic aspects going on. So September 2nd, let's go there. September 2nd, we have the big thing that's happening today is the planet Mercury has just entered Virgo, which is, for all you Virgos, that's good news. God news, everyone. Mercury's in Virgo. Mercury rules Virgo. So your planetary ruler, your solar ruler, is in your house. Is in your house. So if you feel sharper, you're feeling pretty good, Mercury is going to help you out a lot with this eclipse season. Also, it might mess with your mind a little bit too. So try not to overthink everything, as Mercury rules our thoughts and minds. Okay, so let's move on to September 3rd is the next day. That's really interesting. So September 3rd, we got the planet Mercury here in Virgo at 2 degrees. So Mercury moves pretty fast because it's right next to the sun. Mercury is actually squaring Uranus here. So expect some surprises tomorrow. September 4th. September 4th, we have Mars, which is right over here. See this big, thick red line? Mars is square Jupiter. Now, this is kind of like a quarrel, okay? So this is tension builds up between impulses in relationships and what right relationships look like, our decisions, and around what our heart wants and our actions that we're going to take. That is squared 18 degrees Jupiter in Cancer, what we expand upon in the home and how we nurture and caretake, because Cancer rules those things. Cancer is a cardinal sign. It's where we change seasons. So Jupiter is a slower moving planet. So Jupiter has been going through Cancer for a while now. So all these, as far as like the stronger planetary body, that's Jupiter. He's a big body, keeps stuff from flying at, he really protects the Earth a lot and the inner planets from like outer things that like kind of come into that are like orbiting through the solar system. So the big gas giant. So he inflates everything, good, bad, right, wrong. But it also is a lucky planet. So if you have Cancer in your chart, then having Jupiter in your sign is a good thing for the most part. But whatever, where Yi Dao, Qi Dao, where the mind goes, energy flows. So of course, Jupiter will expand on wherever your focus and intention goes to. So on this day, check your impulse control, especially regarding relationships and diplomacy. There might be something on a global scale that there will be some standoff or tensions. Expect to see that. All right. And besides that, there's also a trine to the fear between Jupiter and Lilith. So the things that we're afraid of might be expanded upon, about some borders and boundaries. We'll just say that. So yes, just be aware September 4th with your relationships. The first week of September is more of a listen more than you speak kind of week. Okay, moving forward, this is September 5th. We have more interesting things. September 6th. Now, Uranus stations retrograde on this day. Now, this is the first time Uranus has stationed retrograde in a sign, in the sign of Gemini, in like 80 years. Like our elders, as far as those who were alive in World War II, would be the only ones that would remember this kind of energy. The rest of us that were born after that would not have experienced this. So expect tech changes, Earth activity, maybe even aircraft breakthroughs. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw like a volcano erupt with the lightning or something like that. I don't know. Just like Gemini rules air. So maybe something to do with some new breakthrough in air travel over this Uranus retrograde, or maybe problems with air travel. So yeah, maybe if you're traveling anywhere, just make sure you plan extra time and be safe. Yes. Yeah, so make sure you get to the airport early and have backup plans if your flights are delayed. Now, September 7th, we have the lunar eclipse in Pisces. Now, the lunar eclipse happens when the moon is across from the sun and the earth is in the way, and the earth shadow eclipses the light of the sun. The moon represents our feelings, the sun represents our heart, and the earth represents tangible reality, as in our body. So, have safe containers for your emotions. Remember the sandwich. Remember, have a container for your sandwich. Or make the sandwich and then keep it in a container on top of that. Like, really work on listening more than you speak, and have responsibility as far as the ability to respond rather than react, because eclipses can tend to make people kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So 15 degrees. So that's a day to note. Just be aware of that day, September 7th, September 6th to 7th. Now, week 2, practice that active and reflective listening. And what that looks like is being present and mirroring back to others what you hear and what you feel that the others have seen. So, like, that would look like somebody says, "Oh, hey, can we meet on Tuesday for coffee?" You can say, "Oh, yes, let's meet on Tuesday for coffee." Just repeat back what you say. Just make sure that, everyone's clear with the retrograde. Now, September 13th is the next significant date. To note, September 13th, we have Mercury, which is going to be Cassini the sun, which is right next to the sun. On the days that Mercury is conjunct or Cassini the sun, our mind can kind of micromanage our heart. So our thoughts might outweigh what our heart wants. We might overthink and overprocess and micromanage ourselves, especially because this is Virgo season, and Virgo season is all about the money details and taking care of all of those little things, making sure those are all in order. Moving on. So nothing significant that I've noticed till September 17th. So we have an opposition, and here we go. It's kind of a kite here in the sky. If you can see it, it's a kite. There's a minor grand trine, and also a kind of dirty trine there happening. So what we have going on that's most key here is this opposition between the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn and Neptune. So this is a test day. So what happened on the eclipse? Like, if there wasn't anything wrapped up around that time, it might come to more of a head on this day, especially when it comes to what you vision and what's real. What's envisioned and versus what's real. And opposition is like a tug of war or a push-pull. Can also be a seesaw when it's in skillful mode, where you're like, okay, let's listen to you, and then let's listen to you. Practice the active and reflective listening to get through the opposition. On September 19th, beautiful Venus, who's been in Leo, having a big old party. Venus loves being in Leo. She's like, yes, Leo, Leo. Everyone goes, and she goes into the club, and like everyone's like, look at Venus. She's so gorgeous. There she is. She's been hanging out with the moon. And then going into September 19th, she moves from the 29th degree of Leo and goes to 0 degrees with the moon, partying with the moon, into Virgo. Then she's gonna arrive in Virgo's home and be like, oh man, that was such a great party. Let's have some tea and like talk about it. Okay, and let's process. So, this Venus in Virgo, all about self care and beauty in simplicity. Okay, September 21st, September 21st, solar eclipse at 29 degrees Virgo is the next big deal after that. So this is the end of our feeling sandwich. Time to gobble up all of the fixings that we made for ourselves during Virgo season. Now the eclipse happens when the moon eclipses the sun from our point of view on Earth. Total eclipse of the heart. Because the sun represents the heart. The feelings eclipse the heart. You might have big feels around all sorts of these manini stuff, especially because Mercury's still there in the mix. You're going to be like, oh man, all that stuff. And that's in opposition, of course, to add more interesting energy to the mix, opposite Saturn, who is like, all right, did you pass the test? Because he moves off of the 29th degree, which represents tests, nets to 11, which is Virgo integrity, to 28 degrees. So this is like, all right, pencils down, pencils down. And you just have to wait for your cosmic teacher, Saturn, to finish up the review process as he traverses back to 25 degrees, and then he will give you your test results when he moves direct and goes back into Aries. After the eclipse period, we generally have what I call an eclipse hangover. The energies either, like for most people, the eclipse will either happen before the fallout, will happen before the eclipse, during the eclipse, or after the eclipse. So, just be aware during the beginning, middle, and end around an eclipse period, there's going to be some snafus. So just when it happens, you'll be like, oh, there's my eclipse snafu. There it is. And then you can move on. Just roll it off. Just happens. Part of the season. September 22nd. Immediately after, during our eclipse hangover day, we'll have another planetary shift from sign to sign. So we're going to have Mars leaving diplomatic Libra into fixed, icy Scorpio. Tension between boundaries and diplomacy. September 23rd. The sun will more exactly oppose Neptune as it moves into Libra at 1 degree, 0 to 1 degrees to Neptune at 0 degrees Aries. This could be a day of clarity or confusion, or more clarity and less confusion. Next, September 24th. Mars will square Pluto. So your personal defenses will be versus the collective upheaval. Now, what does that mean? Well, Aquarius rules the collective, and Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius. Now, it's covering territory that it's been before, and it's like, whoa, wait. What about our heart? And what about the heart of this? What is the heart? What is a collective love? And how do we transform that? And then Mars is here with the moon in Scorpio going, well, well, maybe we need to rethink what our boundaries are, what actions we take in these boundaries. And the moon's there too. So the moon is like, well, what do we open up to then? What can we open up to? That's still with this kite aspect between this grand air trine happening between the sun, Pluto, and Uranus, and a kite. So if anything is going to culminate with some really big picture ideas, like when everything starts to make sense about all of what's happened through Virgo season, after this point, things will probably start to kind of come together, and the hindsight will be 2020. So those are the big significant dates for the month. Stop and share. So for September, just remember, we're walking with a rare interstellar comet, not just a chunk of ice, but perhaps a living plasma messenger. Let's have fun and figure it out. Or not. We'll just observe. It'll be fun. Saturn is guiding us through a 30-year review, personally and collectively. Things will be tested under all of the retrogrades. And Virgo Pisces eclipses are reshaping our very reality. So breathe, ground, listen more than you speak. And when Atlas re-emerges in December, we may realize the message that was already written in our own hearts. Anyway, I bid you all adieu. Mahalo, 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 and aloha. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye-bye.